Okay, so I was talking about like how there's a theory about housing or culture that talks about how it always starts in the middle with the richest, and it starts very classy and very fancy in the middle, and then there's the lower classes living outside. And whenever you do, what always happens is the richer will move inside, and then they will try to expand their little fancy parts, and the poor are moving out, they move in again, and then it'll grow bigger, and so on and so on. And it'll always keep happening. There's always this disruption that will happen for growth to come in.
One of the most culturally diverse cities in America, Tampa has grown into a very interesting community. Going from one of the places hit hardest by the Great Recession and other redevelopment flops, to now one of the most booming and trendy regions in the country. The comeback story is one to behold. In Yelp's 2017 Economic Outlook report, which ranks 50 competing cities based on their economic opportunity and a business's chance to stay open, Tampa ranked 7th. In congruence, Forbes ranked Tampa 23rd on their annual list of fastest growing cities in 2018. Talk about a comeback. So why is Tampa grabbing everyone's attention? Why is this particular city in the Sunshine State so special?
My name is Taylor Weitzel. I am a senior at the University of Tampa studying new media production with a focus in post-production and web design and graphic design. For most of my college career, I focused in on coding, computer programming, web design, web development, and it was all on the back end and behind the camera, as I guess you could say. And I never really did any filming. I always wanted to, but I just never had classes that revolved around it. So getting to this semester, I wanted to make my senior project focus around a film project. Documentaries they're a research paper in a sense, and that's something that I wanted to capture on video. And I knew going into it that I was going to have to find a topic and just study it for a whole semester. So about right before the end of last semester, my roommate came up to me and said, "Hey, I have this really good idea for a documentary. It's all about redevelopment in Tampa, and I think you would really have a fun time filming it."
Over the past couple of years, Tampa, and more specifically the downtown area, have seen significant growth in population, and it's largely due to the city's redevelopment efforts. Living in Tampa myself, it's nearly impossible to go on a drive in the city and not see a construction team taking out something old and replacing it with something new. On my street alone, 3 houses have been torn down in the last few months, while newer, larger homes are being built in their place. It seems like our girl Tampa has been made over and dressed up all pretty for the new crowd.
How do I look?
And the people like what they see.
I really like the whole vibe here.
It's a wonderful place to be.
You can feel the life walking around.
Even in just the past couple years, it's like unrecognizable. Like I live over in Channelside, and the growth, I mean, it went from being just kind of a concrete jungle to, I mean, there's just people around all the time, there's activities all the time, there's always something going on, you know, like there's people sitting outside at restaurants and bars and everything, like people are engaged, and I think people are like psyched to be living in Tampa.
Growth and redevelopment seem great, right? But what is the butterfly effect? Are these changes fitting for everyone in Tampa? Or is there a group that fears the change?
People come in, developers come in, and they say, get out, and they build up. They do what they have to do to improve the conditions. But to improve the conditions, that means the undesirables and undesirable activities have to go.
With the new housing that Tampa's redevelopment is bringing, many residents have noticed a spike in the average cost of living. Over the last decade, the number of Bay Area renter households earning six-figure incomes surged 76% between 2007 and 2018. Real estate research firm Yardi Systems Inc. also notes that 7,500 new apartments are now under construction in the Tampa area, with roughly 28,000 more that are in the planning or permitting stages. But what happens to the people in these houses and apartment buildings that are being torn down? Where do they go?
There are homes directly, houses directly behind Oakhurst. And so I have family who live in those houses back there as well. So I wonder how that's going to affect their whole neighborhoods back there. It's not just the public housing that Oakhurst and other places are.
A lot of people whose neighborhood environment were public housing, and this happens everywhere, aren't any longer living near their friends. They have a Section 8 certificate, and certain housing is available with those certificates, and so it's disruptive to a lot of people's lives.
The occurrence that these Tampanians are talking about is known as gentrification.
When you first brought up the topic of gentrification?
I think it was first, like in a critical way, when I watched South Park for like one of the seasons of South Park.
Hey, what are you people doing?
We're gentrifying. It's all good.
My frame of reference for gentrification came from Boys in the Hood. Have you ever seen the movie, Boys in the Hood? What? You haven't seen that? Gotta see the movie, man. Gotta see the movie. All right, so anyway, they're in South Central LA, and the word gentrification comes up, and he explains it. For the first time, that's when I hear it, and my antennas go up. So I'm sitting here and I'm watching, I'm like, man, you know, this is something.
For those of you who aren't too familiar with, or have never even heard of the term before, gentrification is the process of renovating deteriorated urban neighborhoods to appeal to a higher class's standards. Old houses are torn down and replaced with newer and more expensive properties, and this often results in a shift of a neighborhood's current racial and ethnic composition. Over time, these standards will start to have an effect on these lower income households by pushing them further and further out of the city. It has been done numerous times throughout history, with more prime examples being New York City, Detroit, and Washington, D.C.
Being a design student, you don't really study a lot of cultural or social issues in the world. So a topic like gentrification, I probably learned it in my SOS 101 class or my Psych 101 class, but I had, other classes that were for sure more important that I was spending my time on.
Gentrification was first brought to my attention by my roommate and friend, Patrick Slavonsky. Currently a senior, Patrick is studying business and has seen gentrification as a topic that he is not only concerned for, but is also passionate for finding a solution.
So Pat, how did you first hear of the term of gentrification?
Yeah, I don't exactly remember the first time I heard the term gentrification, but I remember seeing it in the newspaper, remember reading it in books, seeing it on the news, and was actually introduced by an after-school coordinator at a learning garden that I created towards the ideology of reversing gentrification. They were trying to reverse it by informing the public and the people how to make themselves not a victim of the detrimental gentrification system.
You mentioned being aware. How long have you lived in Tampa?
So it's been about 4 years now.
How have you seen it change?
I've seen it change drastically. Since a freshman, it was an area where a lot of people may have been very wary about going down certain streets, whereas now those streets, a lot of the properties have been bought out. A lot of those people who may have been perceived as a danger are no longer living there. I've seen many houses get bought up, many houses be destroyed, and then many houses put up and constructed that are double the size of the houses there.
Yeah, I think the first time I really noticed things were changing in Tampa, where I'd be driving down like Armenia or North Boulevard and just see kind of these older 1970s style houses that weren't necessarily like run down. They weren't dilapidated that much, but then they were right next to these huge houses that were double the size, like right in the middle of it, and they would just stick out like a sore thumb. And I would just think it was so bizarre to me, and I never questioned it. I didn't take into consideration the people that were being negatively affected by it. And I think a lot of people are in the same boat.
Patrick and I have decided to work together to create a statement about Tampa's current situation. The city is in a crucial time in its evolution, and it has the potential to be a completely new and different place in these upcoming years. While some changes can be good, I think it's important to consider every perspective and the effects gentrification is having on some residents. Is it an inevitable feat that comes with the growth of any city? Or is it something that can be avoided?